Hello, everyone, and welcome along to the latest edition of Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, the number one tennis betting podcast brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. I'm Nigel Seeley, and I'm joined somewhere in a travel lodge or a Premier Inn somewhere in the Midlands. It's our senior ATP Tour handicapper, Sean Calvert. Where are you, Sean? Whereabouts are you?
I'm in a secret location in the Midlands, as you said. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually going to West Brom today against Middlesbrough. Not been to the Hawthorns for many, many, many years now. I've been to the odd couple of away games over the last few years, but I've not been to a home match for a long, long time. So I've got a little couple of days window in which to do something and see a couple of friends and family and stuff like that. So that's what I'm doing right now. As you can see, this is one of Stafford's best Premier Inns.
Are you getting the bus there?
To the football. I'm actually getting a taxi today.
Oh, what? You won the lottery?
I'm only getting a taxi from here to the train station though, and then
right.
I'm going to get a train, and then one of my friends is going to pick me up from another train station, and she's driving down there. So it's a mix, a bit of a planes, trains, and automobiles job, to be honest, because there's a big train strike here today.
I know. I was supposed to be at Gillingham League 2 today. It's a half-hour train journey from where I am to go to Gillingham. And today, the journey takes 2 hours, 45 minutes on 3 different trains. So I've decided to leave that today. So anyway,
it's ridiculous.
We're glad we have. It's enough of the football talk. People haven't come here to listen to our travels in the Championship and League 2 in England. If you want to do that, you can follow Because We Win Studios, the Betting Weekly Studios, where we have all that soccer covered for you as well. But this is about tennis. And it's the final major of 2023. It's the US Open, starts on Monday. You've seen our preview for the tournament. If you haven't, it's available on the YouTube channel and available to download on your preferred podcast provider. But this is all about the matches. We have 64 men's first round matches. We can't go through all of them because some of them are very one-sided and some of them are questionable. But Sean has highlighted 5 matches on the first round. We don't know the order of play yet, but they will start on Monday and Tuesday, and they'll start at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So you have plenty of time to look at the matches and go through the bets and head to the Bet Rivers website, and they'll have a multitude of markets, 36 different markets on all those matches as well. So number one tennis website and the number one tennis betting company in the United States for sure. So make sure you bet with them and for the head of the big tournament, the US Open this week. So let's start the action. The first match we're going to look about is Lloyd Harris up against Guido Pella. Lloyd Harris is a favourite here. He's minus 295. The spread here is 4.5. Harris minus 4.5 at minus 120. Pella's receiving 4.5 is 107. The total here is 37.5 with over minus 121. Before we talk about the match, Sean, let's have a look about the conditions. A lot of people might be watching this podcast watching this show for the first time, or listening to the podcast for the very first time. May be new to betting on tennis. Before we look at that match, what are the conditions like, and how important is it to know about the conditions before you place a wager on tennis?
Yeah, they're playing a lake-cold surface here. It's the same one as Winston-Salem last week with the Wilson US Open balls. These surfaces can change, they're variable, but it seems the same as last year. If you look at the qualifying stats, they're exactly the same as the stats from last year. 79% holds, 72% first points won in the 3 years on a lake-cold, and exactly the same as the qualies that have just taken place after 103 matches. Different courts play differently. The Arthur Ashe Stadium's normally a bit slower. The outside court sometimes a bit quicker. It just depends on the sun as well. Depends, the courts get the sun. It bounces around a bit quicker. But yeah, those are the sort of conditions that we're expecting this week.
And the weather forecast, I know the weather's going to be bad on Tuesday. There's going to be a lot of thunder and lightning, rain the day that I land in New York. So the day's going to be affected by the weather. On Monday, it's not so bad, is it, Monday?
It looks okay on Monday. Yeah, Tuesday looks a bit iffy. A couple of the courts have got roofs, haven't they? The Arthur Ashe now, and I think it's Armstrong as well, isn't it? That's got a roof. So you should be okay on the couple of courts that they've got there. But variable, the weather looks really variable. Thunderstorms around, showers around. When I get there, it looks like it's going to be pretty hot, actually. 20, probably not what you want to hear, but 27, 28, 29. Degrees. So the second week looks like it'd be more of a challenge in terms of the heat and humidity, and also if that forecast is right, you would expect the courts to play a bit quicker as the tournament goes on. If it's kind of rainy, like when you get there Tuesday, you would expect it to be slower, higher humidity, slows those Wilson balls down. The Wilson balls are normally one of the quickest ones around. But as far as the conditions are concerned, from the evidence that I can see, it looks the same as last year.
Oh, pretty much the same. And then we look at these matches now. Lloyd Harris is minus 295, as I said. Guido Pella is plus 230. There has been a bit of a money for Pella here. And I think the line is actually moving as we speak. It's down to plus 210, which has actually happened while we've been speaking about this show. So the money is definitely coming for Pella here. Surprisingly, really, because they're not in a great form, either these players. Pella has lost his last 2 matches. He got beaten in the first round of Kitzbühel, sorry. He got beaten in the last 16 in Hamburg. Hasn't played any tennis since Kitzbühel. Harris has played at Cincinnati, got beaten in the first round by Purcell. Both of them not in the greatest of form. Both of them sort of tour veterans. It's definitely Pella. And both of them ranked lowly now. Pella's down to 210 in the world and Lloyd Harris is 178. Do you agree with the early move for Pella here?
I do, yeah. Just before we come on to this match, actually, just something I wanted to mention about. When I looked at these matches, all of them in the first round, I have never seen a draw of a major that has so many injury doubts to it. Mm-hmm. I was looking through all these matches and virtually every other one on average, so roughly half of the first round matches are involving players with injuries, players that are either coming back from injuries after a while, players that were injured in their last match, all that sort of stuff. And I had to really kind of focus on the matches where I thought the players were sort of fit. And it wasn't easy because every other match, it seemed to be, he retired last time out. I don't know whether you noticed that, but I've never seen a major draw like this that's got so many injury doubts. Just something to mention. So I've been a little circumspect in my bets in this first round of this particular tournament because it's hard to find matches where 2 of them you think are going to be fit. There's always players that end up being injured that you don't know about that are carrying injuries, but the ones that we do know about, I've never seen anything like it. But onto this Harris match.
Just on that point, before we move on to this match, Sean, I looked over the last 2 weeks across the men's and the women's tour. I don't think I've ever seen so many withdrawals ever. Retirements, players injured in a tournament ever before. There was literally one round where there was, I think, 10 matches on the day across, or maybe 20 matches on the men's and 10 matches on the women's. And there was probably 7 withdrawals. It was so many of them. And that's a real big concern for betting on this tournament. I know we've touched on the podcast before, but I think it's really, really important to have that in mind. Yeah, and it's amazing definitely. That you've broken down all the matches and you've chosen a Pella match. I mean, he's at his age.
That's where we're at. And Harris, for that matter. He's had a lot of injury problems. But this is and there's other ones that are going to come on as well, which also have players with dodgy injury records. But at this exact moment in time, as far as I know, they're fit, which I can't say about almost half of these matches, which I've never known that before. Anyway, Harris too short for this, ran about 1.38, sort of minus 263 was a bit ago. He's lost 6 of his last 7 matches at majors, Lloyd Harris, and the one win he did have was in a final set tiebreak. So not a great record lately at majors. And his form coming into this US Open has been poor as well. He lost to a left-hander like Pella, similar type of player as well in Liam Brody, in the sense that both left-handers, they're both not the most powerful, but very good on court craft, ball positioning, all that sort of stuff. Lost in straight sets to him at the Carey Challenger. Then he lost to the informed Max Purcell in Cincinnati. No real disgrace there, but even so, he's not coming in great form. He's not really done anything since his injury problem struck him in 2022, apart from a slightly surprising run on the grass in Mallorca, where he he's always considered grass to be a bit of a problem for him in terms of his footing and stuff, but played well there. But that's really all he's done. Done nothing since then, really, either. He can still serve big, Harris, but the problem is on return, on all surfaces, he's won just 31% of his main level return points this season, which is very, very poor indeed. Breaking serve 10.7% of the time. So really struggling to break serve at this level. And his service points won, return points won total is 97, which is exactly the same as Pella has achieved in 2023. Yet we've got Harris as a very heavy favourite. And, if you back Pella numerous times, well, let's say you backed him every time this season as an underdog, you'd be doing pretty well. If you backed him for $100 in each of his last 10 matches, you'd be up by $553. So he certainly rewarded underdog backers. I think the layers just assume that because he doesn't play that much, then he's not he isn't that good anymore, but that's not the case. He's shown good form on the quicker surfaces this summer. Beat Borna Coric at Wimbledon and Marcus Giron, and also very, very close to beating Manarino on grass as well at match I was at in Mallorca. Also went the full 5 sets on clay, beating Quentin Halys in 4 hours, 19 minutes. Went 5 sets with Coric as well at Wimbledon. So his match fitness is still there. As I say, he's a very, very profitable underdog to follow this season. I took him at 3.2 earlier. I think he's probably a little bit shorter than that now, probably about 3.1-ish or something. But yeah, he looks the value to me in this first round.
Yeah, Pella is available at plus 210 now with Bet Rivers on the website. Still great value for the match against Lloyd Harris. The player is out of form, and Pella obviously with experience and his proven ability on the stats. It's a 50-50 call, so a nice price at plus 210 there to get with Pella on the first round match. Remember that match, we don't know the order of play. It starts 11 a.m. either on Monday or Tuesday. It's probably, you've got the draw. I don't know if you know the draw Monday or Tuesday, Sean, but it'll start 11 a.m. So you've got plenty of time to get your bets down on that. And if you do place a wager on the Bet Rivers website, remember you'll be able to live stream the match. And also remember, Bet Rivers have a US Open offer every day for the main draw. You just get a 50% match bet up to $25 on any live wager each day of the US Open over in Flushing Meadows. So if you want to play in play, you will gamble up to $25. You'll get a 50% matched on your stake. So that's a nice offer that runs all the way through the tournament here in New York. Next match, we're going to talk about Daniel Altmaier against Constant Lestienne. The line originally was minus 155 for Altmaier, and it was plus 125 for Lestienne, but the money has come for Lestienne here. Altmaier is now minus 141. Lestienne is plus 114, which doesn't surprise me when you look at their records on hard court. Altmaier's 7-9 this year. Lestienne is 10 wins and 10 losses. Altmaier's all his good form is on clay, or Lestienne's good form is on a hard court. So quite surprised to see Lestienne the underdog here. So I quite like the Frenchman here, Sean. I probably missed a little bit of value at plus 125. Is he a bet at plus 114 though?
Yeah, if you look at the stats, I think he is. Again, we're talking about players that I don't think are injured, and Lestienne's in the conversation. You know, he has had both of these players actually have had injury problems. Altmaier more recently, I think. Lestienne is a player that is often injured throughout his career, but he certainly hasn't seemed injured lately. Look at the stats though, so it's very difficult to justify Altmaier as this short, really. His record at main level in the last 12 months on outdoor hard, 0-6 win-loss, and the service points won, return points won total of just 90, which is pretty poor, very poor for a player who's ranked just outside the top 50 in the world. Compare that with Lestienne, last 12 months on outdoor hard main level, 6 wins, 9 losses, and a 97 total. So he's considerably better in his main level stats on this surface than Altmaier. He's also coming off a title, admittedly at challenger level, but even so, you know, if anything, it's proved his fitness, and it's obviously good for his confidence. Won the Stanford Challenger. Very, very close to beating Dominic Kopfer in Winston-Salem last week. He lost in a final set tiebreak, late on in a final set tiebreak. He had a couple of match points there, Lestienne. So, you know, they were, you know, tough, hot, humid conditions as well. He went as far as you can go in a 3-set match there. So, again, plus points on his fitness. And if you look at Grand Slams, Altmaier is, again, 0-6 win-loss in the main draw of majors that are played on hard courts and grass. He's only won at this level on clay courts. So I'm perfectly happy. I was perfectly happy. I took Lestienne earlier on, slightly bigger price, but even at 2.14, I think on the stats, I'm happy to take a chance on him.
To back up those stats there that Sean has said on the matches here, they've met twice before. They met in 2022, and Altmaier won that on clay. And when they met on a hard court, Lestienne won in straight sets as well. So the hard court form is definitely for the Frenchman here, rather than Altmaier. So it's a one winner piece. If you look at the spread, it's 1.5. You can bet Lestienne minus 107, receiving 1.5, which I wouldn't put you off. And the total here is 38.5, and there's 37 different markets available on that match now on the Bet Rivers website. The next match we're going to talk about is a man who's not in great form. We've opposed him a couple of times recently, and it's Botic van der Zandschulp against Jordan Thompson. However, I know he's not in good form, but I looked at the price that you sent me through this morning on the graphic that you want to talk about this match, and I thought it was a mistake when I saw Botic van der Zandschulp at plus 220. I thought, I know he's out of form, but how can he possibly be plus 220? Well, he is, and the money's come again for Botic van der Zandschulp since this morning. He's now plus 210. Jordan Thompson is minus 275. The spread here is 5.5. That seems very, very high. Botic van der Zandschulp getting a 5.5 start, minus 130. The total, again, seems relatively low at 36.5. They've never met before. Botic van der Zandschulp isn't in the greatest of form, but saying that, I don't think this is a price that really, I don't think the Dutchman should be plus 210. The defeat against Kumar in Winston-Salem, you could sort of turn around and say, well, he didn't really put it all in for that match, so that might be a question there. But that was my first reaction, Sean. When I came through, I thought, this can't be right, plus 220 for Botic van der Zandschulp. Well, it is. What do you think of this one?
I think it's a mad price on Jordan Thompson. I'm slightly concerned about Van der Zandschulp, obviously, given the fact that he hasn't won a match or barely won a match since that meltdown he had in Munich, wasn't it, a few months ago? This could be a turning point for him, though, couldn't it? He's coming back to New York, where he made the quarterfinals as a qualifier in 2021. First man to do that, actually, since Gilles Muller in 2008, which was the last time I was at the US Open, when Muller made the quarters as a qualifier. Botic did it in 2021. The only two men have done it recently. Obviously struggling for form at the minute. I was happy to oppose him for certain reasons against Kumar, but he could easily. It's going to turn around at some point, isn't it? He's not going to just continue to be terrible and just kind of slide away. At some point, he's going to come back. You would assume. It might be here. If you look at Jordan Thompson, this isn't a. This is how would you price this up 5-6 months ago? You'd have had Botic's favourite or slight favourite.
I would have been minus 150 Botic.
Yeah, you can't Thompson at this price. Let's just look at the stats. The main level hard court stats, outdoor hard in the last 12 months. Very, very similar stats. Van der Zandschulp, a better win rate, 53%. And a service points won, return points won total of 99. Jordan Thompson, just a 44% win rate and a slightly better service points won, return points won total at 100.6. Service hold and break totals are virtually identical. Van der Zandschulp 99.3, Thompson 99.5. So on the stats, you can't possibly make Thompson 1-3 or whatever he is, roughly 1-3, slightly bigger than that. For this, I mean, this is one where I wanted to press the button, but I'm slightly scared that Van der Zandschulp is just in such a funk at the minute that he might just think, I've kind of had enough of tennis at the minute, and just be here for the substantial first round check, which you get at all these majors. But if you are betting on this match, I think Van der Zandschulp certainly offers some value, doesn't it? It's just a question of whether you trust him to show up motivated, or whether you think this funk that he's in is gonna continue. But either way, you couldn't possibly back Jordan Thompson at that price. You're even getting slight odds against about Van der Zandschulp with the 1.5 set start with Bet Rivers. That was 2.1 when I looked at that earlier. 7 of Thompson's 14 matches, by the way, so half of his matches at the US Open have gone to 5 sets. So I think you have to be looking at Botic in some way here.
I love the 5.5 start. I think getting a 5.5 start's a brilliant price because Thompson wins a lot of matches in tie breaks. He wouldn't rule out a tie break in this match. You could lose them. You could win. Thompson could win 7-6, 7-5, 6-4, and he could still cash.
What would worry me about that's
a big number.
It is. I mean, what would worry me about that is Botic. If he goes a couple of sets down, you could see him thinking, here we go again. I'm jacking this in. That's a possibility. But either way, I think any of these markets that sort of you can get with Botic with the game handicap, the set handicap, any of these things. If you trust him to put the full effort in, then that's a good price. It's a very bad price on Jordan Thompson, that's for sure.
It was I thought when I promised you when the graphic come through, I thought I was going to ring up John who does our graphics and say this is a typo. It can't be possibly 220. I genuinely thought that. So I honestly thought he might be the wrong favourite. So I thought I know that he's not in great form, but I thought he can't possibly be 220 when he is. So Botic van der Zandschulp here in some capacity. Obviously, he's not in great form, but can he revert back to his best? Can he get his best going at the US Open? If there is a time to do it, it's now. So, but you're not going to get prices like that again on him probably next season when he gets his game going. So Botic van der Sandschulp could be worth a risk at plus 210 now. He was 220 with Bet Rivers. Next match we're going to talk about features our tournament pick. If you haven't seen our out show, make sure you watch it. It's the future show is on the channel as well, on the YouTube channel and on the podcast. And our pick for the tournament is Aleksander Zverev at 40-1. He starts his campaign, a difficult opponent actually, Aleksander Vukic, who's a big server. This could be a match where I can imagine Sean looking at tie breaks or potentially something like that, or games or something like that. Let's see what you're going to say here, Sean. But Aleksander Zverev is a heavy favourite. He's minus 910 to progress through to the second round. Aleksander Vukic is plus $6. The spread here is 6.5. Zverev giving up 6.5 minus 113. Aleksander Vukic plus 6.5 minus 112. And the total 34.5, which does seem a little bit cheap to me. I think if I was going to have a look at this match, I think I'd be concentrating on the game markets. What's your thoughts on this one, Sean?
Yeah, I think this is one for tie breaks or over games totals. I mean, Zverev is a notoriously slow starter in majors anyway. He has been throughout his career regularly playing tie breaks or go into longer sort of 4 or 5 set matches than perhaps he ought to. And when he's playing Vukic, he's playing an opponent who's very much in form at the top of his form, you would have to say, Vukic. And he's got a big game as well. You know, he's got the weapons, big serve, big ground strokes. Made the final, Vukic, in quicker conditions than this, you would say, slightly quicker anyway, in Atlanta. Made it all the way to the final there. And it took Taylor Fritz, 3 sets to win that title off Vukic. So excellent form on the hard courts this summer for Vukic. He's won the same percentage of service points as Zverev has at main level this hard court summer, Vukic. So there's nothing between them in terms of serves. They're both big servers, both win a lot of service points, hold a lot. The difference is Zverev being 3.5% better on his return points. So, little argument that Zverev's got a slightly better return game, but asking him to come out and do it in the first match, the first set of the first match, I think is a tall order. Zverev played 2 tie breaks with Guy Brauver in his first round match at Wimbledon. Also did the same with Lloyd Harris in his first round at the French Open. Also went 5 sets with Varillas, the clay courter, in the first round of the Australian Open. So this season, and historically as well, going further back in time, Zverev has certainly been a guy that does just take a little while to get going. So I think the obvious bet here for me, and one that I was quite surprised is the price that it is that it's set 1 overs, which is a 4.1 chance plus 310 with Bet Rivers. Set 1 over 12.5 games, that is, sorry.
Yeah. So, and obviously on the Bet Rivers website, you can move that 12.5 down to 10.5 or whatever you want. So you can move it 11.5, so you can move it down. I always like to play the 9.5 and 10.5. Obviously we've got to go low odds, but if you're going to take the big price on what Sean there with a tiebreak in the first match, in the first set, you may want to look at 10.5 as well, or 9.5 at equally nice prices, depending on how your strategy of approaching the bet here. But also the totals here at 34.5 is worth considering as well. So Aleksander Zverev, our pick. We think he's going to progress, but I think he might take a little bit of time to get into the groove, as he has proven before here in major tournaments. So the final match we're going to talk about of the 5 on the first round of the men's singles at Flushing Meadow is Laslo Djere. The number 32 seed is up against the American Brandon Nakashima. Nakashima is the favourite here, minus 186. The seedy player Djere is plus 148. The spread is 3.5. Laslo Djere receives 3.5 at minus 132. Nakashima minus 3.5 is plus 104. And the total here is a very high 40.5, very high total. Laslo Djere was always an opponent that whenever he got to a hardcore event or he got into Wimbledon or any tournament where it wasn't on clay, he was also automatically an auto fade for me. I just wanted to get against Laslo Djere. But he's actually learned how to play a little bit on clay this year. He's improved greatly on the surface. He's 7-7, which doesn't sound a lot. But when you look at his previous years, in 2021, he only won 2 of 10 matches on hard court. In 2020, he only won 2 of 7 matches. And in 2019, 3 of 11. He's sort of got the hang of it over the last couple of years, Laslo Djere here. And he's plus 148, the seeded player up against the American. Does this go to the way of the seedings, or did the American get the job done here, Sean?
Yeah, you're right. Djere certainly improved a lot on grass as well. Did well at Wimbledon. I think he beat Cressy at Wimbledon. Certainly beat a Shelton, I think, as well. But he's certainly beaten some good players.
He got beat by Tsitsipas.
Yeah, so he's certainly improved on grass. He was terrible. Hard courts, he was no good. Up until probably last year. It's kind of last year it sort of clicked with him. But Both these players are very, very similar profile. You know, Nakashima, we've talked about numerous times. He's the overs and tiebreak king, isn't he, Nakashima? The overs cashed yet again in his last match in Winston-Salem that we talked about. 13 of his last 14 best of 3 set matches have gone over 22 and a half games. And the one that didn't was 22 games. And in majors, 4 of his last 7, Nakashima, have gone to 5 sets. And you can see why, because, you know, 2023 stats at main level away from clay, Nakashima's only won 33% of his return points, broken serve just 11.7% of the time, but holds an awful lot at 87% of the time. He's not a player that you would automatically think tie breaks if you were just watching him play, but you wouldn't have thought he was a massive server. He's not built like a Raonic or an Isner, but he holds a lot. His profile is almost exactly the same. If you're looking at these two sets of stats, someone like an Isner and someone like a Nakashima, they're very, very similar. So certainly been a guy that just cannot break serve. Djere, very, very similar. Not quite to the extent of Nakashima, but 82% holds of serve and only 34% return points won, which is just 1% better than Nakashima. Only breaks serve 16% of the time. Nakashima plays 0.37 tie breaks per set, which is up there with the Cressy's and the Isners and all these sort of guys. Djere up there as well, 0.26 tie breaks per set. And you can see why from the statistics. Very, very evenly matched this pair away from clay at main level. Service points won, return points won, total Nakashima 100, Djere 99. So for me, I've taken the big price here. I can see this going the full distance with these two. I can see there being a couple of tie breaks involved potentially. You know, with Nakashima's profile, over 4.5 sets I've taken here at plus 215 with Bet Rivers. That's the one I'm going for. I could just see this going possibly one of the longest matches of the tournament. This could get the full way.
Exactly why Bet Rivers got 40.5 as the total games. And if you didn't watch one of our podcasts last week, why didn't you watch it? But a question was asked about Sean about total games and his strategy. And Sean said he doesn't like playing the total games in majors because obviously there's the burnout factor. And so for him, over 4.5 sets is the way to get with this market. You know, the 40.5 is available if you want to play that, but there's other ways to get with long matches. And we feel that in the majors, the over 4.5 sets is the better statistical play rather than the total games. Sean, talking about questions, I've got some more for you. We're getting loads now. Okay. Brilliant. Keep them coming. I know Sean loves
People are doing this on purpose now.
He loves this part of the show. He absolutely loves it. He says, just ask me anything, no problem. So any questions you have, Sean is always happy to oblige and answer the questions. So we've got a question here from Mashmira6273. Funny name, isn't it? Okay. But anyway, Mashmira6273 on YouTube. He's asked a question specifically for Sean for the next podcast. How do you assess the players who exited early in the US Open, Fritz, Tsitsipas, etc., when analysing their matches for this year? Would there be someone who would play with less pressure as they have nothing to defend and hence can potentially do better? Or is it just that the tournament doesn't suit them since they've historically not done well?
Either could be true. I mean, it depends on the situation. I mean, Tsitsipas, I think I talked about him in the outright previews, never done well at the US Open. I think he's 5-5 win-loss. Tsitsipas definitely lost to Elahi Galan either last year or the year before. I don't know. I'm not sure why the US Open doesn't really appeal to Tsitsipas, but obviously doesn't. The question is, do they play with less pressure because they haven't got points to defend? Possibly. It depends on the player. If you're Tsitsipas, I don't think the ranking points are that. He's not that much in need of ranking points. I'm not sure that makes a difference to the really top players. I'm not sure they're going to be that concerned about the ranking points. I think it's just for Tsitsipas, I just think for whatever reason, he just doesn't like the conditions here, which is kind of strange because he's always said that he likes playing in kind of hot, humid conditions. Won Los Cabos. He doesn't get much more sort of hot and humid than that. Fritz, I think, is a slightly different matter. I think he's a player that I would potentially be slightly worried about in very, very hot and humid conditions. I've seen him really struggle in Washington, D.C. before with his health and fitness. So, yeah, I think both are some tournaments players just don't like them for whatever reason. It might not be anything to do with the tournament itself. It might be the city. They don't like the city. They don't like something about the tournament. Or it just could be that the playing conditions don't suit them. It could be either.
We've got one final question for you today. So just two today. This is from Stevo7165. He said, what makes tennis a good betting medium for you? And are different tennis tournaments beginning to standardize courts too much and destroying variety for betting purposes? Well, that's certainly the case for Wimbledon. I can tell you that. But what about you, Sean? What's your take on that?
I think the surface slowing down affair has been going on for many, many years now. Yeah, he's right. I think it does make a difference to the to the betting. I think it makes it. I think it's not good for the game in many ways. I think if you're playing on the same surfaces, if imagine you played the whole tour on the same surface week in, week out, I think from a betting point of view, I think we'd really struggle, because that would make it easier for the layers, wouldn't it? They know exactly what the conditions are going to be. They know exactly what's happened in previous matches again with the same players. That have a perfect set of stats to work from. I think that would be an absolute nightmare, and it is going towards that way, because I can't think of many tournaments now where it's what I would call fast. And I think a lot of that is because we've had players like Nadal, like Djokovic, like Murray, all these guys. The trends certainly in the last sort of 10, 15 years have been to players that have that physicality, that do like the sort of longer rallies. The more sort of durable guys, and I think they've had an influence on the courts. They've sort of, they've said to guys, "Well, this is a bit quick. I'm not keen on this." You don't see many. That's also why I don't see many serve volleyers anymore. I think because the courts you can only play on maybe 2 or 3 tournaments a year where it would actually suit you. Shanghai used to be quick. We'll see if that's still quick. That'll be interesting, because that's coming up in a month or so's time in China. That used to be really what's now considered fast. Whether they've slowed that down or not, we'll see. But yeah, I think it's very, very difficult now in terms of different conditions. We saw early on, didn't we, in Madrid? We had a really good tournament in Madrid, didn't we? Because it was quicker than maybe the layers expected. There were more tie breaks. It was the conditions favoured the punter, because it wasn't a typical clay tournament. I think now, if everyone's playing on the same slow surface, I think it's difficult. I think it makes it much, much harder. I would like to see a variety like we used to in the old days. Some of the indoor tournaments used to be like lightning, didn't they? For example, Rotterdam back in the day used to be really, really quick. Then Richard Krajicek, ironically a serve volleyer, came in as tournament director, started slowing it down, because he said, and this is what everyone says, he said that they want more value for money. I.e., they don't want service games zipping by in like 5 seconds and every match going to sort of 7-6, 7-6. They wanted long rallies. They want that for their customers. So there's commercial market forces in play as well, and that's a big factor. I think not many tournaments want to see it quick. I think Dallas is quite quick on the indoor hard. As I say, Shanghai. There's 1 or 2 others, but generally it's slow. For me, it's too slow. I think there needs to be a variety that would increase the different styles of play, because now who's a serve volleyer now? Cressy, Purcell potentially. I'm struggling to think of many more off the top of my head. There's probably 1 or 2 more, but it's not many, and they all play the same these days. The variety is lacking, and that's a kind of a long-winded answer to the question, but that's my opinion on it. Yeah,
they all want Djokovic Alcaraz in the final of the majors. They want big names. They don't want shocks anymore. They don't like
exactly.
It.
It's market forces, isn't it?
Makes the final of Wimbledon. They don't want that anymore. They want
exactly
the big. So they're slowing it down commercially
as
money.
Well. It's to do with money. They want to sell tickets, and they think selling tickets, the best way to do that is to sort of virtually guarantee that you're going to get a reasonably long and entertaining match for your money. And that's, again, it's all to do with money, which is a shame. But I would like to see 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tournaments a year where it's quite quick, because these guys aren't getting tested anymore, are they? Djokovic, they're all in their comfort zone and these sort of slowish surfaces. I would like to see much more variety in terms of surface speed. Yeah.
The only tickets we care about is cashing them, not selling them. So we want to make money.
Yeah, that's not my problem. But that's our problem. It is Krajicek's problem, isn't it? And all the other tournament directors like him, they want to sell tickets on the basis of you are going to get an entertaining match. You are going to see these top guys in the final, and to do that, they've slowed the services right down.
And just the point he said about tennis making a good betting medium, I've always been a believer. I love anything where it's head-to-head, where you eradicate the draw, a player against a player. You're not only you're betting about strategy, you're also betting mentally, or you're betting, you're breaking down the players originally against. So that's why I love tennis, because it's not only it's their mental side of it. You know, some players jack it in and 2 sets in play. I can understand know someone's going to come back. I know a little bit about the players. And I like anything when you just go head to head, I think offers the better, much more upside than the bookmaker. So from my point of view, I think that's why tennis or any sport where you're head to head against an opponent is great from the bettor's perspective as well.
Exactly right. I totally agree with that. And you also take things out the equation, like the referee in football and stuff. You know, your team could be winning 0-0, but you've battered them like 28 shots on target, and all of a sudden get up the other end, dodgy penalty, game over. Exactly. You know, you don't get that very rarely do you get that, in tennis. So I agree with what you just said there. Yeah.
Well, there's your questions. I think we've got some more for you, Sean, on Tuesday. And Tuesday's our next podcast on the ATP Tour. I'll be doing it from New York. I'll be landing on the plane, getting to the hotel. And the first thing I'll be doing, instead of texting the missus say I've landed safely, I'll be logging onto my laptop and joining Sean Calvert to give you the latest Betting Weekly Game Bet Match podcast.
In the rain.
That's in there. It's actually chucking down rain here. I could hear the rain bashing on the window. Anyway, there's 4 ways to follow us here on Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. You can download the podcast. That's the Betting Weekly Game Bet Match on your preferred podcast provider. You can go to our YouTube channel, our new YouTube channel, which is the Betting Weekly Studios. A huge amount of subscribers on that. Thank you very much if you're subscribing. Really subscribe to that. You'll get an alert every time something's dropped. I've seen people say, "Oh, we don't know when the thing's dropping." Well, we plaster it all over Twitter on our Because We Win page, and it's all you do is press the subscribe button. You get the bell rung every time it's there. So there's no need to worry about that. And you also follow us on our Instagram and our Twitter page at Because We Win, and you'll be able to follow us on our journey in New York over the next week. So, Sean, that's it. That's the US Open previewed. We've got the first round matches done. We've got the tournament winner already in the bag at 40-1. Just give us a quick recap on who are the best bets on the first round for our official picks here.
I'm going to have to scroll up on this sheet now. I'll start from the bottom. Over 4.5 sets in Djere against Nakashima. That's 3.15 plus 215. Constant Lestienne, 2.14. I think he is to beat Altmaier. Yep. Let's go back up slightly up the top here. Zverev, Vukic, set one over 12.5 games, 4.1 chance with Bet Rivers. And Guido Pella was the one, wasn't it? I think he's about 3.1 now to beat Lloyd Harris.
Yeah, and we've got a lean for Botic van der Zandschulp. We think the plus 210 is a very, very big price.
Yeah, I'm just too scared to press the button on that one, but yes.
We're a little bit worried about Botic, whose form coming into it, but we think the Jordan Thompson price is very, very low, and Botic van der Zandschulp could upset the odds there as well. Sean, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, as always, for listening and watching. Enjoy the football today, Sean. Anything annoyed you while you've been up there? Any the receptionist in the hotel, the room, anything annoyed you at the moment?
The Wi-Fi, you know what I've had to do with the Wi-Fi? I went in last night, came here sort of last night and said to the guy, what's the Wi-Fi like? I got to do a video call tomorrow. He said, oh, we've got the normal Wi-Fi, or you've got the ultimate Wi-Fi, they call it. I said, okay. So you have to pay extra for the ultimate. He's like, yeah. He said, you won't need it though, because the standard Wi-Fi, yeah, that's absolutely fine. So I thought, okay, we'll see about that. Got up to the room last night, did a speed check on the internet. It was like 1 meg. The standard was 1 meg, and I was like, am I really going to get a video call? So I upgraded, of course, to the ultimate Wi-Fi. You know what speed that is?
2 meg.
It's like 9 or 10. So apologies if this video is cut out at any point, but
it's been good.
Ultimate Wi-Fi, 10 meg. That's not ultimate.
I have no idea what you're talking about. No, the only megs I know are Mystic Meg, Meg Ryan, or Meg Richards, the girl from Meg Ryan. They're the only megs I know. I know nothing about megs.
Well, let's just say this is the ultimate Wi-Fi is pretty slow, kind of the slowish side of what you get in your house at home. But if you've got the sort of
you're
basic
in a Premier Inn.
Don't call it ultimate if it's not ultimate. You should call it normal Wi-Fi or slightly better than normal Wi-Fi. That's what
anyway. That's enough. That's enough issues with the Wi-Fi there. My Wi-Fi is cutting off here. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the game of the football. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Tuesday. Take care, and remember to check out the fantastic content on the Betting Weekly YouTube Studios YouTube channel. Take care.